the Warriors, you made the case last week in our first episode together as them being a 50-win plus team. They're undefeated so far in preseason right now. That prediction is looking pretty good so far. What have you seen from them so far in this preseason that I would assume has you feeling more and more confident in the Warriors this year?
That offense looks very good under Terry Stotts. I mean, they are firing them up. Over 50% of their shots this year or in the preseason so far are coming from the 3-point line. Buddy Hield's firing them up. Moses Moody is looking like Klay Thompson out there. This is a team that is, I think, last year they were 6th in 3-point rating, but this is supercharged. Like, they are going and playing up tempo, throwing threes, and they're going with a team that, like, right now, they're 5-0, and the last 3 times they were 5-0, they won championships. I'm not saying that this is a prediction that based on being 5-0, they're going to win it all this year, but Steph hasn't even looked good. And there's still the other guys, like Moses Moody, looks so confident out there, and that was one of the things that they wanted to see from Moses Moody last year. Steve Kerr talking big time in the preseason about how Moses Moody looks like a different player. His disposition out there, looking for his shot. He has a 28% usage rate in the preseason. This is not the same Moses Moody we saw last year. And he's coming into a year with Kuminga. They're looking for extensions to potentially lock them in for long term. And they have not come to deals as of this recording. And I do think that Moses Moody, D'Anthony Melton, this guy is always, when he's healthy, he makes your team better. He's a savvy ball handler, scorer, shooter, passer, defender, one of the most underrated players in the league. Kyle Anderson. These are guys that I think the basketball IQ with the Golden State Warriors and Terry Stotts at the helm offensively, I just think they're a good 3-4 wins better than they were last year. And last year, they're a 46-win team. So can they get into that 50 to 52 range if Steph starts hitting his shots and looking like Steph Curry? I like what I see. And they're one of 4 teams with over 50% of their 3-point shots, shots coming from 3-point range. And I think that's real. And if Moses Moody and Kuminga can actually have a reliable 3-point shot, everything opens up for this team.
I'm with you, Tom. I mean, I think with Golden State, the way some of the tweaks to their offense have led to these more efficient shots. Because there's a while where, early in the Golden State Warriors dynasty, they were ahead of the curve with their 3-point rate. And then they fell like to the lower side of the NBA as everybody else caught up. It took Kerr a little while to get the system going with shooting more threes. But now they're near the top of the league again. I think the way they've constructed the system around Steph, he's eventually going to have some of those monster games. It wouldn't shock me at all if Steph's in the conversation for MVP. Everybody's looking for who's it going to be this year. Steph, I feel like, is being a little bit overlooked in that conversation because if the Warriors win 50, and if they're a 4 seed or a 5 seed or even a 3 seed or 2 seed, Stephen Curry will be in that conversation for most valuable player. But ultimately, Golden State made a bet with these 2 timelines, and they win 1 championship at the beginning of the 2 timelines approach. And then things have not looked great since then, with some ups and downs with all these young guys. But now we're at a point where you're talking about Moody and you're talking about Kuminga and Pods as young players contributing alongside a ton of very good veterans. As you said, Melton, Kyle Anderson, Draymond still there, Steph still an MVP caliber player, where maybe the 2 timelines approach actually was just worth the wait and the reward could be coming this year. That's the way I feel with this current Warriors team. Those young guys need to sustain it. But Moody, you mentioned him, Tom. Moses Moody no longer looks like a guy that Steve Kerr can be keeping in the doghouse anymore. Moses Moody needs to play minutes, heavy minutes for this Warriors team with the way he's looking right now.
100%. If there's a breakout candidate, it's either him or it's Kuminga, and that's a great sign for your team if both guys could be in the running for most improved player this year. Kuminga, we saw this in the preseason last year where I got a little over my skis a little bit with Kuminga. I thought he was going to win most improved player of the year based on what we saw in the preseason, him making the leap. I still think he has it in him.
Most improved player of the second half? Yeah. After January? I mean, like, if there's a second half award, maybe he would have won that, right?
Yep. DeAndre Ayton would like a word. If he can sustain that last year, what he did in the second half, where he was basically like prime Dwight Howard, I do think that when you look at Trace Jackson Davis too, Like, I like what I've seen from him in the
skinny Looney.
Skinny Looney, taller Looney. Apparently, yes. Trace Jackson-Davis grew an inch in the offseason. Mike Dunleavy revealing that he's grown another inch. The Dale Davis genes are kicking in big time, a little later than we expected. A growth spurt from their starting center. Look, Trace Jackson-Davis, Pods, Moses Moody, Kuminga, 4 really young, high potential players coming in the same way. Again, I keep saying in the same breath, the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors have almost too many good young players for this rotation. Like, they go so deep. Who is Moses Moody going to play over? Like, that's a real question. Is it Kyle Anderson? Is it like, who is Steve Kerr going to look at the other end of the bench and be like, yeah, Moses, you take his minutes? Because they've got really good players. Buddy Hield's look awesome. Like, on that contract, who would you rather have based on what you've seen so far in the last couple of weeks? And it's only been a couple of weeks of preseason basketball. Klay Thompson or Buddy? I'm taking Buddy Hield.
I mean, Klay is still having some bomb games out there for Dallas as well. He has not had his Klay Thompson moment for the Mavericks yet. Maybe that changes. I believe they play Thursday night after we record. We'll see if he ends up playing in their finale. But right now, Buddy Hield looking like a perfect fit for that Warriors system in ways that Klay didn't towards the tail end of his Warriors career. So I'm with you with Golden State. The amount of names we've thrown out there, just good quality names, is representative of the amount of depth and options that they have. And I'm sure for Steve Kerr, there's pros and cons to that. You have all these players. Some good players are going to have to be benched at certain points. But I think it's a good problem to have for Golden State. And I'm bullish on them like you are this year.